showing you guys how to make this two-piece, a short skirt and a wrap a wrap top with peplum and shawl neckline. So the first thing, we're going to start with the bottom. So with the skirt part, all you have to do is to measure your hip and then divide it by 4. So I've already done that. I measured my hip by 4, 42. Sorry, my hip measurement is 48 divided by 4, that's 12 plus extra 1 inch. So you're going to add 1 inch for your seam allowance. So that's how I got the width of the fabric, and as you can see, it's folded into 2. So this is my front panel, and then the second one here is my back panel, also folded into 2. The difference between the two of them is that my back panel has about 2 inches for my zip allowance at the center back here. So the length I'm using here is, I want my skirt, I don't want it as short as the picture on the thumbnail. So my skirt is going to be 20 inches of length. So 2 inches out of that 20 is going to be my band. So I subtracted the 2 inches from the 20 inches that I want to be the length of the skirt. And then I had 18, right? So the next thing is to add 1.5 to it. So that's going to be about 19.5. 1 inch for folding the end and half an inch for joining this top part to the band of the skirt. So that's basically it for this skirt part here. So now we'll start putting in the measurements. So the first thing I'm going to do is to come down from the waist to my hip. My waist to hip measurement, that's about 9 inches. I'm going to mark 9 inches here. And then on this waistline, I'm going to put in my waist measurement, which is 36 divided by 4. That's going to be 9. I'm going to add an extra 2 inches to it. 1 inch for darting, and then extra 1 inch for the side seam. So that's going to be 11. So from this point of 11, I'm going to bring it down to my hip. So this is my hip line, this is my waist. So I'm going to just connect it to this point here. And then from my hip line, I'm going to come down by 1 inch. And then from this 1 inch here, so remember, my hip measurement is what I used to fold this fabric, right? My hip measurement divided by 4 plus 1. So that's 13. I'm going to, this line here, whatever you got from your hip, when you come down here, you're going to subtract 1 from it. So I have 13 here. I'm going to subtract 1 here. So I'm going to mark it at 12. So that 12, from this second 1 inch that I came down from, I'm going to just connect it down here. So it can be pence. Like I said, you don't connect it directly to your hip line. If not, your skirt will have like a pointed part at the hip. So you have to come down about 1 inch, mark a straight line down to that point so that it blends in, so that it doesn't have a sharp bend to your hip directly. So you come down 1 inch and then connect it to the end. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to mark half an inch, come down half an inch at the center of your skirt. So I'm going to mark that half an inch here. And then you're just going to blend it into your waist line. So I'm just going to blend it in. Just gradually blend it in here. And then after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to mark your nipple to nipple distance is what I'm going to use here. So for me, that's 8 divided by 2, that's going to be 4. So now I'm putting in my dart. My waist to hip is 9, right? So my dart is going to stop 2 inches before that. So that's somewhere about 7. So I'm going to mark that here, and then just draw the line straight down, and then mark half an inch here, half an inch here, and then connect by that. So that's basically how I'm going to put. So this is my dart here. I'm just going to notch this part here so that I can be able to transfer my dart all through the four folds that I have here, right? 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So after that, I'm going to split this part here. And then I'm going to just cut this whole thing out. So guys, I've cut out everything I need to cut out. So at this point, you just go ahead and use your lining. If you want to use lining, I won't be using lining. If you're new to this channel, if you're an OG member, you already know I don't normally use lining, except I have to. So what I'm going to do now is just take your fabric here, the way it is now, cut, like this is my front part. I'm just going to tell you how you're going to do it if you want to use lining. Cut the same pattern again, the same, and then just use your sewing machine. Just try to use a loose stitch to just hold it down, and then cut the same lining for the back, and then use loose stitch to also hold it down on by the corners, like, or you can use your pin. After that, just join the whole thing together and then go ahead and put in your dart. So after putting in the lining and holding the lining to be exactly like the same as this here, then you go ahead and put in your dart. So after putting in your dart, the next thing you're going to do is to cut out the band for the skirt. So guys, just the same way I did for the bottom part, I've moved over to the skirt the top part. So what you have to do is to measure your shoulder to your waist. So mine is 17.5 plus 1. You're going to add 1 inch to yours. So for me, that's 18.5 now. The 1 inch is just for your seam allowance to join the shoulder together and to join the bottom to the peplum part, right? So the next thing you're going to do now is to, so how I folded this fabric, this smaller one here is my back panel. When you're making, I've made several videos on how to make a wrap dress, so I'm going to just run through this here. So when you're making a wrap dress, you normally cut the back panel before the front panel. So this is my back panel here, this is my front panel. So what I'm going to do now is just to, how I got the width for the back panel is the same way I said before. You're going to divide your bust measurement, which is the widest part of your upper body, by 4, and then you're going to add 1 inch to it. So my bust measurement is 42 divided by 4, that's going to be 10.5. I added 1 inch to it, so that's 11.5. So that's what I have here folded. And then remember I said this smaller one is my back panel. So the one below, which is the front panel, which is the one that is going to have the wrap, I added about 5 inches to it. So this 5 inches is where the wrap is going to come in. So just like how you normally fold your fabric for the back and then you have your zip allowance, but instead of like having 1.5 of zip allowance here, you see that what I have here is up to 5 inches. So that's why this one is wider. So now let's start putting in the measurement. So go up to my shoulder. My shoulder measurement is 16 inches divided by 2, that's 8. I'm going to mark that here. And then my armhole is 20 divided by 2, that's going to be 10. I'm putting that in here. So I'm going to just connect it this way and then come down here by 1 inch for my shoulder slant. And then up here, I'm going to mark about 3 inches. And then I'm going to just connect these 2 points together. My shoulder slant. And then after that, the next thing I'm going to do is come down here by 1 inch, right? For your back neckline, 1 inch is what I'm going to use here. So as you can see, this is my back neckline here. And then I'm going to go down to the waist part. As you can see, all my measurements are starting from this folded part here. So for my waist measurement is 36 divided by 4, that's 9, plus extra 2 inches, that's going to be 11. 2 inches because of my darting and my seam allowance. So that's 1 inch for darting and 1 inch for your seam allowance. So I've connected that here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut this out, cut out the armhole, and then cut this out. So now that I've cut out, guys, you can see this is my back panel here. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut out this part too. So the back neckline here. So you see, I've cut it out now. So this is the back here. So it's done. Let me put it so that you guys can see. So you see my back panel is done. Let me put it back again. So my front panel is what I'm going to cut now using this one. So you see, this is the point of the neckline here. This is the point of the neckline. So what I'm going to do with this now is I'm going to go ahead and come up by 1 inch here. So I'm going to come up by 1 inch at the bottom part here, right? And then I'm going to connect with a straight line from this point of this neckline, right? This angle of the neckline, the point of the angle, I'm going to connect it with a straight line to that point. So guys, what I normally do, so you can see the line that I made here, I like to just blend, instead of leaving it straight like this. Sometimes when you leave it straight like this, the neckline is too high. So what I like to do is just give it a little curve, just a slight curve, not too deep, so that it's not like you won't have a lot of cleavage outside. So I'm just going to give it a slight curve in here, and then I'm going to just go ahead and cut this out now. So guys, I've cut it out, separated it now. So you see, now I have my 2 front panel here. one on this side, one on the other side, right? You see, and then one is going to be my back. My back panel is this. But before that, I'm going to just chip out from the armhole of this so that the sleeve will fall in perfectly. I'm just going to come down by halfway through the armhole, which is somewhere about 5 inches here. Coming by, this is just on the front panel, half an inch here, and then I'm going to just blend it in. If you have a curved ruler, that will be better. This will help my armhole to fall in perfectly. So I'm just going to chip this out. So guys, for now, the next thing I'm going to do now, the same way I said for the front, you can go ahead, if you're cutting your lining, trace out the same exact pattern like this here, and then just hold it down with a loose stitch all the way around it, and then you're going to join your armhole, your dart. So for me, I'm going to use the same nipple to nipple measurement, which is 8 divided by 2, that's 4. I've marked it here, so I'm going to come down here up to like 8 inches down here. And then from this point, I'm going to connect this 4 inches up to this point. And then I'm going to leave half an inch on each side. And then I'm going to connect it all the way to this point here. So that's basically like a rough sketch of how to put in the dart. So this same 4 inches that I marked here, I'm going to use it to mark for the front pattern. So I'm just going to notch the center line here so that I know that this point is what I'm using for my darting. So I've notched it here, so I know that this is where my darts for the front would fall in. Because if I try to just put in my dart on the front, because of these 5 inches here, I might make a mistake. So that's why it's better to use the back pattern as a guideline to put in the darts for the front. So the next thing I'm going to do is my shoulder to bust, which is about 11 inches here. I'm going to mark about 2 inches or 1 inch below that. And then I'm going to connect it to this same 4 inches mark, which is on this notch here. And then leave half an inch on this side, half an inch on this side. And then this is going to be my dart for the front. So I'm just going to go to the sewing machine, pin it down this way, and then dart it. So remember, like I said before, go ahead, tracing, if you're using lining, tracing exactly like how this is, and then just use a loose stitch to hold it down before you go ahead and put in your dart. So I'm just going to go to the sewing machine and start coupling mine together, starting with my skirt. So guys, I've gone ahead and joined my skirt together. As you can see, this is it here. This is the back for the zip. I've put in all my darts. So the next thing I have to do now is just to go ahead and put in the band. So basically my waist measurement is what I have here, plus the seam allowance for the zip, which is like 2 inches. So this is it here. So what I have to do, the width I have here is about 5 inches. So what you have to do is to take this here and go and iron in your stay. When you iron in the stay, you're going to just fold it into 2 this way. And then remember, why I have 5 inches is because we want to have 2 inches band. So if you fold the 5 inches into 2, you're going to have 2.5 on each side, 2.5 on the other side. And then you're going to tuck in half an inch. You're going to tuck in half an inch on each side, right? The half an inch on each side. So then you're left to just 2 inches width. So that's it here. So the way it is now, you're going to be sure to measure that your waist is exactly what you want it to be. So for me, it's 36, and that's what I have here. So you're going to just take it here, and then after you've ironed in your sleeve and folded it, you're just going to take this here, put it in, and then just sew it all the way around. Like, put it inside of this. Remember the half an inch you left for the joining the band. You're going to just use it, tuck it inside of this. So it's going to run in between this band, and then you're going to join it all the way to the back, and then you put in your zip and fold the end. So that's it for the skirt. So guys, this is my armhole here. I've joined my top, and this is what it looks like at the moment, right? So what I have to do now is to go ahead and measure out the armhole. So what I have for my armhole now is about 10.5, almost 11 inches. So I'm just going to take that. So this is what I'm using for my sleeve. As you can see, it's folded into 2 here. And what I'm going to do now is the way it is. So guys, the next thing I did is to come down here 4 inches for my sleeve cap, and then I'm going to just take my tape, place it this way, and then draw a straight line all the way to this point. That's from this point to this point. And then you're going to measure halfway through. So that's 6 from this point to this point is 12, half of it is 6. And what you're going to do is just draw a half moon shape down here, and then a half moon shape up here. So one going this way and then the other one going this way. So that's basically how you draw your sleeve. And then at this end here, I'm going to measure out my so I'm not using, this is going to be a 3/4 sleeve. I'm not making it full length sleeve. So for me, what I'm going to do now is to measure around my arm where I want the end to be. So guys, and remember, this line I drew here is the armhole that I got from this, right? That's what, that time I measured the sleeve and I got about 11 inches. That's what I used for this line here. It came down 4 inches and then drew in the top part. So at this part here, my the around my arm is about 12 inches divided by 2, that's 6. I'm going to add extra 1 inch to it, so that's 7. I'm going to mark it here, and then from this point I'm going to connect it to this end here. So guys, I also notched it here, and then I took this here to, I'm going to take this down, I'm going to put it in as my sleeve and close up the end. Right, so when I come back, we will then deal with the neckline. I've joined my sleeve, so this is what it looks like right now. So now we are going to move over to the neckline. This is, I'm using satin, this green satin for the neckline. So what I'm going to do now is, you see the way it is now, I'm going to just, because I want to measure around the neckline, and to measure it I'll fold it this way so that I can get the accurate measurement, right? So guys, this is what I have here. So I'm going to measure around this neckline. So the measurement I have here is about, so starting from the top here, I have, and down to the end, I have 23 inches is what I'm working with. So I'm going to cut that out here. So guys, remember what I did here, I've measured around the neck. So what I have here now is the 23 plus 1 inch of seam allowance, that's 24. If you want, you can use half inch of seam allowance. So now the next thing I'm going to do, and this is folded into 2 because my neckline was folded into 2, and then the width I'm using here is 7 inches. So the next thing I'm going to do is, the way it is now, I'm just going to take it and fold it into 2 again. So I'm just going to fold it this way, and remember this fabric is light, so you're going to be careful with it. So the next thing you're going to do is to go back to your top, and then you're going to measure the back neckline. So you see where the back joins to the front, you're going to measure this part of it here. I'm going to measure the neckline at the back here. So let me see what I have. So what I have here is about 3.5 is what I have at the neck, at the back. So I'm going to, and this is going to be my center back. So I'm going to notch this top part here, and also notch this back, the end here. So I'm just going to mark that 3.5. Right, so you're just going to mark that neckline at the back, 3.5, whatever you got, mark it. So mine is 3.5, I've marked it. Then the next thing is to go, so guys, the next thing you're going to do is to mark about 1.5 at this end. So I've marked my 1.5 from this bottom part to this top part, mark it. So after marking it, what you're going to do is you're going to connect from this 3.5 inch to this point here. Whatever you got at the neckline, the mark that you made there, connect the two together, right? So you're going to connect it. So that's what I'm going to do now. Go ahead and cut it out. So this part here, I'm going to cut them out. So guys, like I said, remember to notch this top part here so you won't make a mistake. So now you're going to split open this part here. So guys, now that I've opened it up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take this. You see why I said to notch it? You're going to take it the way it is now, and you're going to just, the curved part, you're going to join it, right? So this is the curved part of my, this is the straight part, but the part with the curve, I'm just going to close it up. So you're going to close it up like, so guys, you're going to go ahead, close up the side, and then go ahead and close up the part with the curve, and just go all the way to the other end and close it up, right? You're going to get to this end again, close it up also, and then when you're done, you're going to flip it inside out, iron it down. So I'm going to do mine now. So guys, I've gone ahead and ironed mine. So this is what it looks like now. The next thing I'm going to do is to get my the shirt. And then the center part, I'm going to try to notch it, right? So I know that this is the center. So guys, the center part of my back neckline, which is this point here, the point I just marked, and then the part that I notched down with this here, you see where I notched it, this point, this is the center for the collar. So what I'm going to do is just to take one part of it here, so open it up, take one of it, and then go and sew it down all the way. So I'm just going to, you can go ahead and hold it down with your pin. So you're going to just take it and pin it down all the way so that you don't make a mistake. So just take it, one layer is what you're pinning down. So when we're done with this layer, so guys, I'm going to go and sew this round and come back. So guys, this is it here. I've joined it. So now I'm going to use the top one to cover it. So I'm just going to put it this way and then sew it down all the way to the end. You might want to notch this end so that it won't be too tense inside, so the excess fabric you have. So I'm just going to use this one here to cover it up and sew it all the way down. And after that, I already cut out my peplum. So after that, the peplum I'm using is just like, I'm going to be using it, this one is about 10 inches of width, 10.5 inches of width. So I'm going to just fold the end and then start from one side to join it. So I might start from one side of the front. I'm going to join it like a box pleat, like a kissing pleat. So basically, you're going to use your pin to hold it down. You join it this way, one facing this way, the next one facing this direction, and then the next one is going to join it kissing this way. So that's how you're just going to do. I've done this several times, so I'm just going to show you guys. So that's basically it. If you want, you can use gather at the end. If you want, you can use pleat. If you want, you can make a circle and join at the bottom for your peplum. It depends on you. And then after that, I'm going to put in my rope at the end. This is it here. I finished it, sewed it down, ironed it, and then put in my belt in between. So that's basically it. Belt on the two ends. So remember to leave your loop for the side. And then this is my skirt. So everything is done. I've also put in my zip at the back. So that's basically it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Bye.